my people, how you doing? I hope you're having a damn good day. Welcome back to the channel, and today we are going to be doing Mikel Arteta and Arsenal's tactics for the 22-23 season. So, as you can see right here, we're playing the 4-3-3 system with a slight variation to it, of course. Martin Odegaard will be playing as a cam, so slightly further forward midfielder, of course. And then we've got our casual back four with Ben White having a few alterations to his instructions and making him more of an inverted wide centre back that kind of gets forward in a way. But yeah, so this is the team that we're going with right here. As you can see, we've got Xhaka, Odegaard, Partey in the midfield. Of course, the fabulous front three of Martinelli, Jesus, and Saka. Also, can we just address that Martinelli should be a much higher overall in FIFA? I mean, at least an 84 to match these two. But in saying that, these two should be even higher. So I would say 85 for all of them, to be honest. But nonetheless, we're going to hop into the tactics. And as you can see right here, Arsenal play a very good pressing game. They're probably the best pressing team in Europe. And so they have press after loss of possession. So you will have a lot of possession with these set of tactics. So don't worry too much about it. But when you do lose the ball, you will probably win it back as soon as possible, to be honest. As for width, we've got it set on 40, creating a very narrow approach to the opposition and making it very hard for them to play through Arsenal's middle of the park or through them, essentially forcing them to go out wide, whipping in more crosses than anything. And then of course you have the big strong boys in Thomas Partey, Gabriel, Saliba, and so on to win the headers essentially in the box and clear the ball. So yes, set on 40 makes sense, right? As for depth of the defense, you want to set on 80. Of course you can go a little bit higher, but I think this is a good balance to it, because I think if you go too high, it just allows for faster opposition players to run in behind and then score a load of goals. So I have it set on 80. I think for the bigger teams, put it down to 70, just, you know, have a bit more of a pragmatic approach. You don't want to play too high up and then get exposed. But normally I have it set on 80 because, like I say, the Arsenal press is absolutely elite and one of Europe's best, and having a high line to more or less trap the opposition in their own half is pretty essential to the insane press that Arsenal maintain throughout the entire 90 minutes. As for the offense, we have it set on slow build-up as well as possession. Of course, Arsenal tend to dominate games. They normally have at least 60% possession. Doesn't matter who they're playing against. Of course, we haven't seen them really play against Man City, but I remember a game last year where they played City and they did fantastically well in terms of maintaining possession. So we have it set on possession, slow build-up. Of course, you want the likes of Odegaard, Saka, Martinelli, Jesus, of course, to get on the ball, have a few touches, and then pick out those fantastic passes that we all know that they can. As for width, we've got it set on 35. So attacking, you're going to have a very narrow team going forward. The likes of Martinelli, Saka, and Gabriel Jesus, they're going to more or less be close together, but at the same time the instructions will help them maintain space along the byline, along the touch line, of course. So set on 35. Of course, it also maintains a compact midfield, so Odegaard, Xhaka, and Partey, they're going to be more or less dirtying up that midfield when going forward, making sure that if they do lose the ball, they're still compact and they're able to create that first line of defense in order to win the ball back, of course. As for players in the box, you've got it set on 7. You can have it on 8, but then the likes of Odegaard and Xhaka will more or less get into the box, and you don't really want that. So set on 7 is perfect. Set on 6 is more ideal, because then either Xhaka or Odegaard will be on the edge of the box waiting to receive the ball, but we do know that Xhaka makes great runs into the box. So I think 7 is a good balance, but a happy medium I'd probably say is more or less 6, but I have it set on 7 for this case right here. As for corners and free kicks, we've got it set on 4. I think pretty much for most of my tactics videos it'll be set on 4. It just makes a more sense, good balance to everything. So of course there we have it. As for the player instructions, we'll start off with Aaron Ramsdale. Of course, one of the Premier League's best sweeper keepers. Of course, many doubted him when he first arrived at Arsenal, but he's proven himself more times than not. And of course, we've got him set on comfort crosses and sweeper keeper. Very good with the ball at his feet, finds passes, extremely talented at spraying balls out wide to Martinelli and Saka. So make sure when you are using these tactics, you can potentially find some of them. As for our centre backs, we've got it set on normal for all of them. For both of them, I should say, but all the instructions are the same. And then we get our fullbacks. Now, of course, different tactics. Arteta has been insane with his tactics, especially with Zinchenko. But starting off with Ben White, of course, came into the side when Tomiyasu got injured, and he's just taken off from there. So we have him set on balanced attack. Of course, you can have him set on stay back while attacking and more or less create like a back three, which Arsenal do tend to do. But I have it set on balanced attack because, of course, Ben White does get forward in games, and he does have a more calculated approach, whereas Zinchenko is more or less all over the place and causes a lot of disruption. So Ben White, balanced attack and inverted, and then of course stick to position. As for Zinchenko, slightly different. Join the attack, inverted. So he'll get forward a lot more, creating an overload in midfield, creating more or less a midfield four, which is fantastic. And of course he is going to be an inverted player, so he will join up with the likes of Xhaka, Partey and Odegaard from time to time, and we've got him set on stick to position. As for the big man in the middle, Thomas Partey, we've got him set on cut passing lane, stay back while attacking, cover centre, very important for him to cover centre, shield the back 2/back 3 from time to time, and of course we have him set as a deep lying playmaker. Of course you want him to get on the ball a lot more and create for the players that are further ahead of him. The likes of Saka, Martinelli, Jesus will be waiting patiently for those insane 35-yard screaming passes that he is very likely to produce. So yes, Thomas Partey, fantastic player, one of the best DMs in the Premier League this season. As for Granit Xhaka, who has had an absolute 180 in his career since Mikel Arteta has joined Arsenal, he is a pivotal player to this team, and you'll see why in these instructions. But for now, we have him set on balanced attack, so he'll be the box-to-box midfielder, of course, and then he'll be the midfielder that gets into the box. It's vital. He does it in real life. The late runs he makes into the box just creates so much issues and problems. The opposition don't know who to put on him to make sure that he doesn't get the ball in space in the box. And yes, so we have him set on get into the box, aggressive interceptions, as well as cover wing, because of course you don't want Partey moving away from this middle bit. You want either Xhaka or Odegaard to cover the whichever fullback gets forward and leaves space in behind. So that will be Xhaka's role as cover wing, of course stick to position. As for Odegaard, if I can get there, he's a cam, so we'll have him set on come back on defense, and then the rest is just normal. Of course, he will be the furthest forward from time to time, but you also want him on the edge of the box, maybe making the occasional late run into the box to create an overload somewhere, but fantastic player nonetheless, and just does the role really well. Of course, we do have Patrick Vieira, I forget his first name, but Vieira on the bench in order to replace Odegaard as well. As for Saka and Martinelli, they're set on the exact same set of tactics, but we've got them set on comeback on defense, of course helping out the fullbacks from time to time, staying wide. Now this is where I said earlier in the tactics that even though it's a narrow attack, the wingers have certain instructions that will help them create space for the likes of Xhaka and Odegaard to run into between the lines, and between obviously Saka and Jesus. And then of course we've got Saka and Martinelli set to get in behind. Of course they're very fast players, can create many problems for opposition fullbacks, and does create a catch-22, because of course you want your opposition fullback, or you want your fullback to get forward, but as the opposition now against two fast players, you can't always afford that, and that creates a lot of issues going forward for the opposition. And then the final instruction is to get into the box for crosses. Of course, the likes of Ben White, Zinchenko, Odegaard, Xhaka do launch a lot of crosses into the box for this team. And as you can see here, here's Martinelli's instructions. Like I said, exactly the same as Saka's. So yes. And finally, we've got Gabby Jesus, a player that has revolutionized the attack for Arsenal and has helped this team, along with Zinchenko, just take that final step into what might be a championship-esque season. They're having a fantastic season, by the way. So, Jesus, he said on drift wide, of course, he'll be somewhat interchanging, but also creating a lot of space for the likes of Martinelli and Saka to run into, and occasionally Granit Xhaka. So, set on drift wide, he can help up with the build-up in the attack and so on, and he does such a good job with that. Of course, Nketiah does a very good job as well. And as for this, I think you could have it on get in behind, play as a target man or a false nine, but that's why I have it on mixed, because he's just such a talented player at doing a lot that mixed attack brings out the best in him in this team. As for interceptions, you can have it on aggressive interceptions. Of course, Arsenal have that piercing frontline press as well. That's literally the first line of defense when the opposition start from out the back, playing out of the back. But I have it on normal because aggressive interceptions tend to drain stamina like crazy. And then of course, Jesus will be the outlet forward. Looking for an outlet ball, it will go to Jesus and he'll find a pass either to Saka or Martinelli. So he's the stay forward man. And yeah, that is the instructions for Arsenal. So my people, I hope you have enjoyed that video. If you have, smash that like button down below. And if you are new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. It is, well, appreciated nonetheless. And of course guys, as per always, I hope you have the most fantastic damn day ever. And check out the other videos I've made.